Welcome, welcome. Today we're celebrating action heroes. By day, I go as Dr. Mark Scherf of the English department at North Shore Community College, but AKA, I'm Double Diamond. And I have certain powers. These boots allow me to run on water, the frozen kind. These glasses allow me to see the best lines on the Double Diamond slopes. Why settle for Bateman when you can have Double Diamond? I save the world one skier at a time. So when I come to a Double Diamond trail, and I see the tourists from New Jersey on the steepest and iciest part of that trail, I shepherd them down safely down the slope. So today will be a celebration of action heroes. Matt Phillion is not only an author, but a playwright, a movie maker, and I guess we'd call you a serial artist of some sort. Fair enough? And his series, The Indestructibles, features a cast of young teenagers who are kind of like trying to find themselves while they're trying to save the world and leave it a better place. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Matt.
There we go. I'm height impaired, I couldn't actually see the buttons. So I had a request to read because of the costume idea. Mark had actually suggested I read from the chapter where the characters create their costumes for the first time. Because that was kind of the most fun part of writing the book. Just as a funny sort of backstory is that it's very weird to have written something that has no visual element and actually having people show up in costume. Because I've actually had people read the books, and the first time someone came to a Comic-Con in one of the characters, a 12-year-old kid shows up, full costume, walks away, and an hour later a grown man shows up in the same costume. He was the first one to do it. And I'm like, you missed it by an hour, I'm so sorry. But it's always a thrill. So with the whole costuming thing, I wanted to read from this chapter. So this is them figuring out their looks for the rest of the series. Doc led them to another chamber, a big airy laboratory dominated by a machine the size of a small car. A strangely normal-looking computer terminal stood at one end, and a tube large enough to hold a person stood on the other. "We're being carbon frozen," Billy said. Doc ignored him. "My friend Annie built this a long time ago," he said, gesturing to the machine. Annie had access to technology nobody else could get their hands on. "We call this thing the Tailor." Jane smiled. "This made your costume," she said. "You got it," he said. "I want all of you to spend some time with it. Think about your powers, what you need to help keep you safe." He pointed at Kate. "The fabrics on this thing haven't been invented yet. Light, durable, you can add some extra layers so they're stronger than Kevlar. Consider using that to your advantage." She nodded. Kate had been wondering about what to do to get herself on a more equal footing with the bulletproof girl and the werewolf. A bit of body armor might make for a good starting point. Doc walked out of the room. "Day off from practice. Play with the Tailor? We'll have a show and tell before dinner." They all stared at each other. "I have no use for this," Titus says. I destroy everything when I change." Jane was already at the keyboard, looking things over. "It says here the material has a lot of wiggle room to expand with changing masses," she said. "Sure, werewolf in a body stocking," Titus said. "It'll be awesome." "Suit yourself," Billy said, nudging in beside Jane. She swatted him and he backed off before immediately trying to push his way in front of the keyboard again. If you want to end up every battle buck naked, that's your prerogative." Titus paused, eyes narrowing at Billy, then his eyes darted in Kate's direction, and she saw his skin flush. I'll try to make some shorts I can wear underneath my street clothes," he said, for decorum. Kate hung back as the others entered the conference room one at a time, suspended up in the rafters where the doc knew she was there, but he ignored her, letting Kate play her game. He hung out in his college t-shirt and jeans, eyes still hidden behind those red glasses he never takes off. Titus walked in first, wearing the same baggy jeans and checkered shirt he was wearing in the tailoring room. "No luck?" Doc said. In response, Titus tugged at the waistband of his pants, showing the top pair of black pants not unlike yoga shorts. Doc laughed. "Figured this was better than werewolf in a tutu," the kid said. "Good plan." Titus nodded, taking up his usual anxious perch at the table. Jane sauntered in next. Kate rolled her eyes. Of course she'd do this, Kate thought, looking at the streamlined confection of gold and red Jane had created. The girl who could fly and had turned herself into an emblem, with long-sleeved, form-fitting top, the sleeves a little too long, high red boots, perfectly functional, yet somehow looking like something out of a rocket design schematic. A cape, a goddamn cape, Kate thought, but diaphanous, red at the shoulders and fading into blue at the hem, slashed through like daylight. She'd added a skirt to the costume as well, which made Kate want to punch her in the mouth. Completely illogical, completely ridiculous. "Normally I'd say it's better to put function over form," Doc said, "but you grew up around all those photos, didn't you?" She sure did. "You look like one of the heroes when I was a kid, you know. They all knew the skirts and capes were ridiculous, but they knew they were symbols," Jane said. "They wanted to look like something. The form mattered." Well, give it a try for a bit. You can always have the tailor make you something different later," Doc said. Jane nodded and sat down near the head of the table. "Always near, never at," Kate noted, and crossed her legs. Then Emily came into the room. Titus covered his eyes. Jane blanched. Doc laughed. "What happened to you? Did you break the machine?" Jane asked. "Bite me, Twinkle Toes. I like it." Emily wore a neon green top emblazoned appropriately with the nuclear hazard symbol. She had black pants contrasting almost appropriately with the green of her shirt, but nuclear symbols repeating down the legs in neon blue to match her hair destroyed all subtlety. Massive knee-high combat boots with two thick soles that echoed back to bad fashion choices in ages past. Fingerless gloves, also black, with her apparent choice of personal symbol on the palms. Gripped her hands, and inexplicably, a scarf wrapped around her neck, the most hideous scarf Kate had ever seen, striped in a barrage of bland, washed-out colors. It was at least 10 feet long. Nobody said anything until Billy rambled in, and then he spoke for everyone. "Holy crap, you look like the girl comic books threw up on," Billy said. "Is Eyesore going to be your superhero name? I can crush your heart with my brain, Billy Case. Watch your mouth." Sorry, I did a little aligning myself on the page. "You look like you're being strangled by ugly." "This is the doctor's scarf. How do you not know that?" "A what?" Jane asked. "The doctor." "Who?" Again, Jane, the walking irony-free zone. "I have a black hole where my heart should be. I am, in fact, bigger on the inside. Does nobody here watch?" "You know what? Forget it," Emily said, playing with a pair of steampunk-style goggles resting on her forehead. "Can we please make fun of what Billy's wearing instead?" They all turned to look at Billy's costume, and strangely, there was really very little to make fun of. He created a streamlined suit of white and blue with a half mask to hide his identity. The white piping was slightly reflective and would catch the light of his glowing glass perfectly. He truly, bizarrely, looked like an actual comic book personality. "I thought you were going to walk out of here looking like somebody in a video game," Titus said. I've read comic books my entire life, and though uniquely unqualified as a hero, I sure know what one looks like," Billy said. And he flopped down the couch, he flopped down in his usual chair and threw his feet up on the table again. The lack of comedy in his appearance took the fire out of the room. No time like the present, Kate thought. She dropped from her hiding spot up in the rafters to the floor below. "Oh my God," Billy said. Kate felt a strange sense of pride that he said nothing else. "You look like you could murder someone with your pinky," Emily said. Kate's suit was all clean lines, taking on a slightly sci-fi look where extra padding added coverage over vital organs and soft tissue. The entire ensemble was made up in blacks and very dark purples that looked gray in certain light. Tungsten caps glinted on each knuckle and protected her toes, knees, heels, elbows, all her striking points. The entire time she'd been playing vigilante, she needed to be careful during fights not to chip an elbow or break toes or fingers. It felt good to be able to build in protection for all those breakable bones. She even added a paper-thin metal plate across her forehead under her own half mask. She'd always liked throwing a good headbutt. But it's a move with limited benefits when you knock yourself silly at the same time. Kate built in a tactical belt and thin gauntlets on her wrists. The rest of the gang didn't need to know what she'd added there, though. She wasn't about to reveal all her tricks yet. Kate didn't trust any of them enough for that. Doesn't look like she'd murder someone, Titus said quietly. He looked at Kate with something that made her distinctly uncomfortable. Instead of his usual predator's glare, she could have sworn he was gazing at her admiringly, like someone to emulate. Kate broke away from his gaze so she wouldn't have to spend much time thinking about that. If we're done staring at the angel of death over there, Billy said, sparing an extra glance at Kate's armored suit again. Does this mean we're ready for our trip to Disneyland? Doc shook his head. If you're going to go up against your first supervillain, you should look the part, right? I think we're going to
I think we're going to do some questions, well, whatever you want to do.
Anybody got any questions? You want to talk to a writer, that's your time. Hang on, we'll give you a lot of time. Go ahead, Angel.
So when you were describing the character designs, I thought about it in my own personal experience, right? So I wanted to ask you, how do you make your characters like overall design? Like, do you base the designs off their personalities or just their superpowers?
I was kind of going with, especially with these characters, they all kind of represent different parts of the comic book world. So I wanted, like the kind of overblown, over-designed costumes and the really simple, like the ones that go back to when comic books first started coming out with the primary colors, and that played into it a lot too. Like the closer they are to sort of that classic sort of character, the more the colors would be primary versus secondary colors, and then I wanted a wide range. I wanted to give enough detail that people could imagine them in their head, but not tell them exactly what they look like too. That was actually really important. Like I don't have pure concept art of any of them. It's always like, that might be what they look like, that might be what they look like. So it's actually kind of fun to see people dress up with them and be like, yeah, that's right. And I had aspirations of being a comic book artist when I was a kid. I was never good enough to do it. So there are tons of doodles where I've drawn out little like me, but I've never done it the same way twice because I always wanted to, the way, it's fun creating them in prose because you can leave a lot to the imagination but still be pretty specific.
If you're not in my class and you want to walk out of here with a book, ask a question.
So clearly this is a very long series. You've got a number of books going back to the beginning. What was the original inspiration for all of this?
So two things. One was I had just come off of directing a film it was a romantic comedy, zero budget. What can I do with no money? And I said, what's the exact opposite of that? It's superheroes. Like, if you're, I had gone from how do I make sure I can actually get this project done with not enough money to do any special effects and all that, and just went to the opposite extreme. Okay, kids who can fly, explosions, laser beams. But also this is the sort of story I wanted to tell when I was a kid. And then I kind of took the joy away from myself over the years. I'm like, tell serious stories. And then after telling some serious stories, I'm like, no, go back and have fun. And another thing was after doing a feature film, it was like, okay, I'm going to tell a story, and if nobody looks at it, nobody reads it, I'm the only one who's disappointed, which is a good thing for novels. Like if nobody reads your book, you didn't have a cast of 12 people and a crew of 35 counting on you. And it was, I'm like, of course, the time that it finds an audience is when I'm the only one who can be happy about it too, But it really was just kind of going back. I started off the first thing I wanted to tell when I was a little kid was superhero stories, and it took until I'm way older now, but my mid-30s when I wrote the first draft of this, and it was like it took 25 years to give myself permission to have fun,
Can I ask you a bit of can everybody hear me? Can I ask a little bit of a metaphysical question, and without mentioning any names? We're in a really challenging crossroad in our world, and part of the charm I get from your series is making the planet a better place. And of course, I boiled it down to I'm saving the universe one skier at a time. I'm wondering if you want to touch on the fiction and how it might impact or parallel the actual world we live in. Very metaphysical, and I hope I gave you a lot of rope for that.
It's actually like my favorite topic because I always say like it's kind of a happy book, you know, like the kids are trying to save the world, and I am angry all the time at the state of the world. Like I wake up at 11 and I just get angry all day, and writing these characters is sort of where I get to ventilate that and have some hope for the world, and that's their whole purpose is like what happens. I'm not big on other types of superhero drama or other types of adventure drama. Like they don't make stupid mistakes. They just have no sense of self-preservation. Like I don't want them to make silly drama mistakes. I want them to throw themselves into terrible situations because they can, and that lack of self-preservation in order to help other people is what's the basis of the whole series for me. I would say like there's almost no teen drama in the books. It's all like that's a way to get yourself killed again, and I think about it all the time. If you have the ability to change the world not without risking yourself, because I put them through hell in every single book, but if you have the ability to change the world and make it better, why don't you? And that's what I keep digging into with all of these characters and all of these books is I wish I could do what they do. You know, that's kind of why I wrote it. Yeah. I don't know if that's that answers the question or not, but.
No, you inspired me to like save the universe one skier at a time.
So I'm curious about the writing process and kind of hearing a little bit more about that. I mean, I've heard, you know, the terms like a pantser, like a writer who just kind of goes by the seat of their pants and just, you know, they don't really know what's going to happen, and a planner who, you know, kind of plans everything out. And I'm just curious what your process is, especially because this is a book that has, you know, multiple, installments. So I'm curious how you sort of approach that.
I learned the hard way last year that I am a plotter. Capital P, need to have it plotted out. Because I tried writing a different series that I was just like, oh, I'll just wing it. And I'm like, I'm miserable. When I wrote this, I literally had each chapter as a Post-it note on the wall. And because it's really satisfying to go, wrote that, and throw it on the floor, and I would literally like, I wrote that scene, throw it on the floor. I admire people who can just wing it, because I can't. I need to have everything. But I plot it in a way that I can, that's why they're sticky notes and not a notepad. I can move them around, put the scenes, like, oh, I've covered this territory in another chapter. This is just retelling the same part of the story again. That helped. I think this was written in 90 days, the original draft. But I wrote it in 90 days, like sitting like this. But it was every run that I went on, I was thinking of the plot. Every time I'm sitting in traffic, I was thinking of the plot. So it was, the chapter that Kate is introduced in was written maybe 10 years before. I wrote it as a one-off story. That was just, and a lot of the characters in this was like, okay, 20 years of thinking of different heroes in my head. Let me just throw let me see which of them kind of get along from all these years of development. So Kate existed first out of all of them. Or maybe Doc Silence, the mentor, was around for a long time. I'd written some short stories about him, but it was very much like, here's all these pieces, now let me sit down with a plot on the wall. Actually, so it wasn't a wall exactly. I had an old USPS delivery box that I had unfolded and stuck to the wall, so it wasn't even, and I still have, I don't have the heart to throw it away, it's just a piece of cardboard. I used that's where you had all my sticky notes. So yeah, I admire pantsers because I am not that improvisational. I need to know what I'm doing.
Thank you so much.
So was there a character that was inspired by or based of a person you know?
Character based on anyone I know?
Yes.
Oh, I steal from everybody. Yeah. Nobody in this book is one person, but they're all composites of people I know, including myself. There's that old saying, like, you never say for a writer, because we're all just like logging in dialogue of what we're going to steal from. There's little bits of, and what's funny is I've had people that I've known for a long time go, oh, that's me, isn't it? I'm like, a little bit, but not just you. You know, oh, I'm Jane. I know you wrote me as Jane. I'm like, you get a little bit, you know. So it's everybody that you meet's an opportunity to have some inspiration, and then once you get writing, then you start developing. Like, okay, it's not exactly like that person. So, but yeah, I could definitely. There's a lot of people who think they are one specific character in the book, and it's all composite, even to the point where the youngest character in the book, I had someone ask me years ago, like, is it strange that one of the most popular characters, you're an old guy, and your most popular character is the 15-year-old girl? I'm like, that's just me on coffee. It's really a lot of her. That's just me when I've had too much caffeine. Like, a lot of that comes out of that. So yeah, taking inspiration. Everybody you meet's an opportunity to steal a character from real life to put into your stories.
You want a book, ask a question. There we go.
Nothing like her.
My question is, I know you wanted to do the book or this idea from you were a kid. Did you use any of that material or information from the younger days in this series right now? Or?
Oh yeah. There's, and I still do. Like, I still have. Never throw anything out when you're working. The worst idea that you might have when you're kind of just putting ideas on paper can come back to help. So. Each new book, I'll feel like, oh, there's a character, there's an idea that I was thinking about when I was younger, and it's kind of fun to look at it with your adult eyes and be like, I had no idea how the world worked back then, or the other way around. That's actually kind of useful. It's funny that at 12 years old we were thinking about these things. So I think most of the characters in these books are more from like my 20s when I was. Throwing scripts at Marvel and DC, when they would hire me. They've all evolved, but they all came from when I was, from when I was younger.
Other questions?
What made
Can we have a mic?
This is my
So how did you pick superhero writing? Like, what made you, you said Marvel and DC, but was that really the main factor, that got you really into writing superheroes?
So I've tried everything. I've written romantic comedies, I've written fantasy and hard sci-fi. I loved cyberpunk for a long time, but I always think of, I was a comic book kid. And then I was like, okay, now I'm too old for this, I'm not allowed to do this anymore. And I wandered into a comic book shop in my 20s with my girlfriend at the time, and she's like, I've never seen you this happy before. Like, maybe you should do more with this, this actually makes you happy. And it was just, I didn't let myself write superheroes for a long time because I didn't think I was allowed to, but that was sort of, where my heart was, the thing that I really love about it is I call it the kitchen sink genre. Like, every other genre has rules, and this one, it's like, well, I want to put a werewolf in a scene with a robot, and maybe like a Godzilla thing, and how about a wizard, and that's totally acceptable in comic books, as long as you're telling a good story. I love that there's almost, it's the genre that lets you break the rules the most. So, and that actually, it helps with, what kind of story do I want to tell? You can tell any kind of story with superheroes. It's just, it's such a very fun, creative playground to play in. So I've written in other genres that are more rigid, and I kind of just love like, it's one of those things I actually have always joked around, like I've watched shows with a werewolf in it. God, I just want to write a werewolf story, and I've had friends be like, you got one in there. Like you actually have gotten to use every single genre that you wanted to. And that's why I like the genre in general. Like each of the books in the series, like, okay, this is the hard sci-fi one, this is the horror one, this is the time travel one, and they all work because that's what comics do. They're just a wild playground of stories and ideas.
He's here live now.
Do you have any like advice on like how to like, because like story, like every story is like different. Like there's no like real advice on like how to like, I think there's like no real advice on like how to like write like a really good story. I think like they're all kind of unique in a way, but like how do you like convey like emotions like in the best way possible at like a maximum level?
I always say that write what you entertain yourself. You're your first audience member. So like, and I firmly believe that nobody's so unique that we're the only one that thinks that what we're writing is fun. You know, so like never try to like write for someone else. Like write for yourself, and the more fun you have, that comes through in the story. Like you can tell when the writer really loved what he was working on, and you can tell when he kind of had to write it. You know. And so I just say, you know, find what like you're excited, or like when it doesn't feel like work, just sit down. Like I want to tell this story. I can't wait to tell this story. Whatever that story is, whether it's superheroes or sci-fi or historical romance, whatever you want to write. If it doesn't feel like work, like if you're making yourself laugh or cry, the best thing, if I make myself giggle when I'm writing, I'm like, okay. Or be like, yeah, that was a rough death, and that's something. So try to get your own, like, if you can get the emotional reaction out of yourself, then you're on the right track, because someone out there is going to have the same feeling that you do, and will latch onto it and be like, I'm so glad you told that story. The hard part is finding what makes you happy, but once you find it, dive in and don't worry about the consequences. Write the story that makes you happy.
I love that advice. You know, find that emotion within yourself and entertain yourself first, and you write for yourself. I love that. Clearly, there's a bunch of experienced writers and budding authors in the audience, and you've been very successful, clearly, at creating, but you've also been successful in getting it out into the world. So, how do you do that? What is I know it probably has changed from the beginning when you started to right now, but what thoughts do you have about that?
The best advice I ever got from anybody else, because it's everybody's story is that if anybody tells you they know how to get a story out to the world, they're lying, because they know how their story got out to the world. And to this day, I talk to, with a different publisher now, but the owner of the original publisher of this book. To this day, I'll grab a drink with them and be like, I still don't know how the audience found this book. Like, it tripped the right algorithm online one day, a week after it came out, and it sold a bunch of, like, it was pure luck. But I got a friend who mostly he mostly writes books from other people's IPs. Like, he writes like books for Marvel and stuff, like the novelization of the comics. And because it's 90% luck. So take the 10% that you can control and do that real well. And just be ready to jump if luck strikes. Like, the last thing you want is to have that lucky moment and then not be ready to take advantage of it. That, and it's like one of the reasons why I love the character of Kate, and this is this symbol of publishing. Be too dumb to not keep getting back up again. Like, because there are days, like, even this morning, I'm looking at like my inbox, I'm like, I hate marketing. I hate selling books, I like writing books. But it's having that you almost have to just be too relentless to give up. Because you always hear about the overnight success that's been at it for 20 years, and there's no such thing as overnights. It's just being ready, and there's only so much you can control. So tell the best story you can, build the best voice for yourself as an author as you can, and then hope that lightning strikes. And it's that 10%. As long as you're giving your all for that, then you're ready if that other component kicks in.
So you're putting as much effort into the business and marketing side as you are into the writing, or not necessarily?
Oh, I mean, it's an everyday thing.
Yeah.
And I can say, because I've done traditional publishing, small publishers, and self-publishing. I've tried all three, I've done all three. And unless you're in that very top percentage of authors, where the publisher's like, we're gonna throw a bunch of money at it, almost everybody. I had dinner with someone who is one of Stephen King's favorite horror authors. I'm not gonna name any names. But we're having dinner, and he says, I'm thinking about taking out a loan to pay for my own marketing. And I'm like, you're with Big Five publisher. It's like, yeah, but they're not really doing anything, so I'm gonna pay for it out of my own pocket. Like, but you have a movie deal. And so it's an everyday thing where like, you have to, and one of the first authors I met, when this came out 11 years ago, he looks over at me and goes, sorry kid, you're a brand now. Like, yeah, like, I don't want to be a brand, I want to be a writer. And so that's part of it too, it's just kind of, you gotta, and I've met some writers love it. I know this is a guy I've been on a bunch of panels with, it's like, I hate writing, I love marketing. It's like, once the book's done, now the my favorite part. I'm like, you're nuts. It's like, oh, I love marketing, I love doing events, I love getting on podcasts, and I'm like, what planet are you from? Can we trade places for a year and see what happens with my books? But most authors are like, okay, this is the thing that I have to do to get out there into the world, and I have to, there's a lot of authors that never wanted to learn how to use Canva, and now do. But it's that just being relentless about it. You gotta. If you let it fade to the background, life will get in the way. So just make it a part of your daily thing to be a creator.
Cool.
We got bonus material for you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to read in 10 minutes stage combat demonstration of a scene from one of the books.
We talked about action heroes. Action hero is about action. Get ready for some action.
Cari, do you want to do introductions now or just? Oh, perhaps we should. Well, we can still breathe. Sure. So, hi, I'm Professor Nicki Buscemi.
I'm Professor Cari Keebaugh.
That's right, and we were asked to try to bring one of the scenes from these wonderful books to life. So that's what we're going to try doing for you here today. And we can see if people have questions about that afterwards.
And I'll read in just a couple sentences to set the scene.
Yeah, please do. That's perfect.
All right. The girl born Catherine Miller, now 18, calls herself the Dancer. She rarely rests. At night, she takes to the streets behind a mask, claiming to be fighting crime. In truth, she's chasing ghosts. Tonight, she fights a group of gang members, boys her own age, who play at being older and who act like children. The battered bodies of her adversaries lay splayed on the floor behind her, bones broken, eyes closed. Their leader's still almost a boy himself. The streets made him older before his time. He locks eyes with Catherine and can't see her face. She wears a mask now. It looks like a costume she might have worn on stage.
Got questions for the ladies?
That's right. You're welcome to ask questions. We can come up here too. Anyone who knows me though knows I'm not wearing my glasses. I'm wearing a mask instead, so I may not know who you are when you're asking a question. Yeah, I'm good.
When is the movie coming out?
That's from your lips to God's ears. That's right. I have to ask Matthew. He'll have to put in a good word for us. Oh, so I can get some water.
Other questions?
How long did you practice that?
Let's see, I think we decided we choreographed it in about 3 hours, and we've been rehearsing for
Was it like maybe
a month and a half?
Yeah, it's like kind of weekly rehearsals.
Yeah, once a week for about a month and a half. 2 to 3 hour rehearsals. You start slow, you build up speed.
Yes, yes. So that was show speed. It wasn't always at show speed.
Yeah, you start at walk and talk speed, which is just I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. Build up to fluid, which we call 20 to 25%. Build it up to 45. Show speed is typically about 85%, between 75 and 85% of what feels like, quote unquote, real speed. If I were actually in a fight, I'd be going faster. You don't want to go 100% because audiences can't follow it.
Did you know any martial arts before?
Oh, that's a great, yeah. Do we know any martial arts? Well, the short answer for me is absolutely not. I do not. So, Cari is the one who is, okay, what is your certification? Okay.
So it's the Society of American Fight Directors, the SAFD, safety. I'm a safety certified actor combatant.
That's right. And I'm not. I used to be, like years ago, so again, some of you are my students, so you know I'm an English professor here now, but years ago when I was in college, I also focused on dance. So dance was something that I was really interested in, which is part of why I loved this character. When we were looking for who should we choreograph, and Cari said, so there's a character named the Dancer. I was like, yes, please, can I be that character? So I came to it that way because it really, in many ways, it's more like dance, I think, than really like fighting. Like nothing we do is actually hurting each other, and it's all choreographed. And you have to be comfortable with your partner and, you know, kind of prepare it in that way. Yeah.
One of my instructors once told me the people who are actually martial arts trained in the room when they walk in for stage combat, the most dangerous person, because their instincts will take over, and instead of missing, they're going to be aiming for the nose. I was actually injured once by somebody who had come in for a scene, and his instincts were to punch me, and so he punched me. So, yes, there are people in safety who are martial arts trained, but typically, I'm not a fan of that.
Go ahead, here, we'll go here and then there.
So during the fight scene, you, the first punch you threw had like an audio slap to it. How did you do that? Oh, so you
Thank you for that question. So,
there's another question. I think
I will walk it over, absolutely.
How we do that.
So the sound effect that we make when we throw a punch or do a slap is called a nap, a K-N-A-P. Typically, I favor body naps. They just resonate better with me than hand naps. You can clap if you're doing a slap. There are shared or single naps. You can do them off your thigh. It's actually something you can do right now if you want to. Don't aim for the collarbone, aim for right under, and kind of cup your hand a little bit and just stick a button. And you just get used to the coordination of punching this way and bringing this hand up. So, yeah, that's a nap.
Over here.
So 2 questions. Have you done stunts in movies? Have you been in movies? Which one?
I was in a student film called The Barn Brawl, and I was a barn brawler. And I fought a 6-foot-tall friend of mine, and it was great. And actually, I won. Very pleased with this. The choreography had me winning, so there's that. Thank you.
I actually have a question. Oh, go ahead. Was that like I said, I don't have glasses, and so. Was there another one? No.
But that's it.
No? Okay, did you have another one? No? Yep.
How did you prevent not to hurt each other? You look like you almost hurt each other.
So how do we not hurt each other? It depends on the move. There are certain techniques you can use. So when we punch, we do what's called punching the parrot, which means that as I'm aiming to punch, and if you do mind if I...
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm always going to be aiming here, and she just reacts when appropriate. Can I throw a punch at you?
Yeah, for sure.
With a nap? Okay.
Yep, and
I'm going to lay this down for a sec just to demonstrate.
And I think that, maybe we can show that your heads up, because I think that will, it will, wait, no, we're going to get in trouble. Let's not get in trouble. Okay, so you want to throw a punch? Yeah, sure.
So I'm going to be cueing to let you know that a punch is coming, to let her know the punch is coming. I'm going to be coming past her face. When I'm doing that, I'm going to be napping, and she'll just react at the right time.
Yeah, correct. This is the thing, I always have to remember physics because I'm not actually being hit, so that's another thing.
Are you ready? Do you mind if I do show speed?
Do show speed. That's fine.
So I'm always aiming past.
And the noises and the reaction are kind of another way that you make it seem real, so...
Yeah, the noise of the acting.
That's right. And the other way we don't hurt each other is that,
Again, we have cues that we're using. So, for instance,
can we do the headbutt? When you, yeah, do the headbutt. That's right there. Okay, so I'm coming around here, right? I'm strangling Cari. And by the way, she's controlling it all. I don't have, it's very loosely in my hand. So another way.
It's all me.
That's right. And I have to get in close, and she's going to have to whip her head backwards, which could take me out, right? So we wait until she knows that I'm in a place where I know I'm not going to get myself taken out, and then I do this, and she's like, okay, now I can do it. So there are sort of cues like that that kind of help as well.
And again, the headbutt is aimed offline, meaning I'm going straight back, and if Nicki is standing in the right place, her head is not, her nose is not behind my head.
so I'd like to ask Matthew a question. So what was this like for you to see this scene perfect? And it's okay, you don't have to just say good things, but I'm curious, like what was that experience like seeing something like that you've written, that we then took over?
I was more nervous about that than reading on my notebook. What's this going to look like? And it's also just, it's wild to see what other people picture in their minds from it, because it only lives in here for me.
Yeah.
So getting to see other people's interpretation is amazing. I've been telling people that it's like, I don't know what's going to look like because I don't know this. But I was also like, I'm actually nervous. Like, what if they don't like the scene?
I mean, we similarly were like, well, okay, I hope he likes it. So yes, no, I feel that. I mean, it's interesting because this was a different creative project to sort of be inspired by that, scene in the novel, and then kind of perform a part that sort of is quiet mostly in the novel to kind of pull that out. So yeah.
I also, because you mentioned the dancing component to it, and the reason why there is a dancer in the book is I was a theater person myself, and I have seen specifically ballet dancers, but dancers in general, work through injuries that would lay out a professional athlete. Like, my whole foot's broken, but I'm just going to dance. I'm like, what if you were a superhero? That's literally where it came from. So there's like the running joke of ballerina Batman is actually, people have said about the story. It's like, injuries that would put an NFL player out, I've known dancers to perform through. I'm like, they're actually way tougher than it.
I appreciate that. Senior year, broken toes, concert, done. You had to do it. So yes, thank you. I was just curious.
Any other questions for us or for the author?
I just want to say, I had a real life, oh my God, superhero moment seeing you, you
That's right. This is my secret identity. That's it. Yes, that's not typically what I look like in the classroom. No, it's not. I know.
It's like seeing Clark Kent.
I love it. I know. When my student Robert walked in, I said hello, and he looked at me like, "Who are you?" I was like, "Hi, this is your professor here." So, that's right.
I swear I don't wear tank tops to teach.
Yeah, typically very few leggings like this. Yes, yeah. Well, good. I'm glad that it worked on that level then. Very, very good. Awesome. Oh, okay. Robert, is that one?
I just want to know, when you guys practicing, did you read and practice, or watch the script, or read the script and practice to get it down like how you did?
I guess, yeah, I'll take this one. No, I'll just come over to this.
Let's see. So, Cari started reading and found us the scene that we wanted to do, and then I think we both, read around so that we would kind of understand the characters a little bit more, and then, let me think, and then it was really important to us. We were so thankful that Matt was willing to read that in, because that was like how we set the whole thing up, was that kind of thing. So yeah, it was, but it then kind of did take on a life of its own, which is why we're like, we hope you like it, because it did kind of take, but it started with the text. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Cari.
I was taught to choreograph very much with story in mind, so it was very important to us that the thug had some kind of advantage over the dancer, so he came out with a knife. We wanted the dancer to be demonstrating her balletic background, so she had kicks, whereas the thug didn't. She had that moment of centering herself, because in the way that we were interpreting the character, Kate has some maybe anger management problems, and the way that she handles her anger is to beat the crap out of people. So we had this moment where the only way she can win is to kind of draw her anger to herself and then do what she needs to do. Well, to give her that moment, the thug then needed to one-up her in some way. So we kind of had starting points where, okay, how do we build around this and create a narrative within the fight, where the thug comes at her with a knife and is kind of stupid. Hey, that didn't work, but I'm gonna try again. Oh dear, I don't have one, but now I'm just mad, so I'm gonna punch you. Okay, well that sets Kate up then to need her moment of zen. So we really tried to construct it like a story based on what we knew from the text we were going from. Does that answer what you're asking?
Question for Matt. I was wondering about, do you ever deal with like creative burnout, like several chapters into a story, and then how do you get yourself back on track when that happens?
My favorite trick, and it works for me because of the type of story I write with different, it was third person limited, so I go for like different characters. If I don't know if something's not working, I change the camera angle. And I try to take the chapter from someone else's perspective for a little while and see if that helps. Sometimes it's like, okay, I gotta go for a 6-mile run and clear my head. Also, there's a lot of pressure to write every day, but if you don't have it in you, sometimes you just need some time to take a break. But don't be afraid to break your own rules a little bit to see if you can't get yourself out of a rut. That was, sometimes I've been like, I don't want to write this chapter at all. And then if I change the perspective, it helps. Also, there have been chapters that I did not want to write, and I'm just like, I'm just going to write the worst version of the chapter ever and just see what happens, and I can't find them later. Like, sometimes it's just, you feel like you're having a creative rut, and if you just kind of push through it and just get some words on the page and just get through it, and then get to the part you want to write.
Kind of turns out better than you thought. It just was hard to write, but you still like how it came out in the end.
Yeah, exactly. It's it kind of blends in, because it's a big picture instead of just each chapter being on its own merit, or each scene being in its own merit. So yeah, sometimes just powering through and going, I'll fix that later. And sometimes you don't have to fix it. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you just go back and rewrite the whole thing because you don't like it at all. But yeah, I would try changing the camera angle. Give yourself a little bit of a mental break, or just get some words down on the page and go to say, put a note to yourself, fix this later, and get to the part that you want to write later on, because there's probably something later on in the story that you're hoping to get to enjoy that part.
Thank you.
Matt's going to sign books, okay? I have a few books that I will be distributing. Ladies, wait. Thank you all for coming. Okay, hang on for book signing. and I will be handing out some books as well. And enjoy Arts of